This is the Nebraska Greats, a weekly podcast as a service to the Nebraska Greats Foundation, which serves former collegiate athletes facing medical needs and financial challenges. Your tax-deductible contribution will change the life of a former college sports hero. Please give online at negreats.org. And now, here's your host, Jim Rose.
Thank you, Matt Tompkins. We are joined today by one of my favorite people in Omaha, and I think somebody that immediately connects to Creighton University and what's really great at Creighton University and the Omaha community, and that's former Omaha Central standout, Creighton Blue Jay Josh Jones. How you doing, my man? It's great seeing you again. What are you up to these days?
Oh, man, I guess I got a social entrepreneurial spirit, if you want to say. Community Center Director at the Salvation Army. Also, I work with the developmental disability with my own agency. Full-time dad, full-time husband, and just being me, man,
Well, just being you is good enough. Now, for those of you unfamiliar with Josh's story, he was one of Nebraska's top high school basketball players, and he signed with Creighton and had his career headed toward the potential of ending up in professional basketball. And then one day, the lights went out on the floor. You collapsed on the floor and ultimately diagnosed with a heart condition that eventually ended Josh's basketball career. Went on to get a degree from Creighton University, but that was a lot. That's moving on 10 some years ago, man. What do you remember about that night on the floor?
I remember it figuratively and literally. To be honest, man, what I remember about that day, I believe it was like December 6th or something like that of 2012. I just remember all these emotions of just the past 10 years of my life, being, just playing in front of the stage of the state of Nebraska, city of Omaha and stuff like that. And this was just going to be my last time. So I just had a lot of emotions of like nostalgia, but also excitement to try to compete against Nebraska. Unfortunately, the things that happened, we can kind of get into that the more you talk with me, but I was ready. I was excited, man. I don't regret anything that happened, but I just wanted to play one more time in front of the state.
And you since have become sort of the face of what an athlete can become when suddenly their dreams disappear. A lot of guys go into a tailspin, Josh. Their focus almost from the time they can remember was, I want to be a professional athlete. I want to be a professional basketball player. I've given everything, right, mind, body, right, and soul to that, and then it's over. And yet you've flourished since then. What was your attitude when it was pretty clear you couldn't play basketball anymore? Where did you be channeling your energy?
Honestly, I channeled my energy from understanding that sports didn't necessarily build my character. It just kind of revealed to me who I actually am. Growing up in North Omaha, where I feel like to a big degree, just because of the disadvantages, I can have all the reasons to fail or all the reasons to flourish, according to me allowing my mentality. It's all about my mentality changing my circumstances versus my circumstances changing my mentality. So, I did have hoop dreams for sure. But once, they were taken away due to my heart condition, I just kind of thrive off understanding that sports was just a platform for me to really recognize who I really am and figure out what I'm capable of doing,
Find out there's a lot more to you than just the ability to play basketball.
Right. Yeah. And for me, I did, like I said, I thought that's in the midst of that, I thought that sports was going to be my avenue and ticket pretty much to change my life. But to be honest with you, it did write my ticket. It allowed me to get a free degree from Creighton University. It allowed me to be I consider myself honestly a cultural ambassador because I'm working for my own community, but I'm trying to bridge the gap between everybody. But also, it just allowed me just all the opportunities that I got today. So I always encourage everybody who does want to play sports to just go hard as you can, go all in with what you're doing, but understand that at some point, whether you retire from it or it retires you first, it will come to an end.
visiting with Josh Jones, former Creighton standout, on this Nebraska Greats podcast. We're really proud at the Nebraska Greats Foundation, Josh, of how we were able to become involved with you and your family. And for us, it's a mission that we just embrace every day and are so pleased and proud and fortunate to be a part of it. But talk about the circumstances for you. You mentioned you came from North Omaha, and most college kids don't have a whole lot of cash anyway. Suddenly, you're faced with some major medical bills, and it wasn't just you; it was your family too at the same time.
Right. Well, I grew up where, I was lucky enough to have both parents, in my household or whatever. My dad was born in 1948, the late John Jones Sr. He is from Tillatoba, Mississippi. He came down here literally with $1 in a dream, if you want to say. He didn't ever work or be employed by anybody. So he was, just big on masonry work, carpentry and stuff like that. And my mom was his backbone and support system. She did home daycare. So we kind of to me, I never really knew how great or bad, if you want to say, depending on how you look at it, we were actually living. I was just thankful to have two parents that took care of me, just humble about the situation. But the older I got, I recognized that we didn't have a lot of financial resources at all. All we had was my connections from, me playing basketball and going to school and stuff like that. So once I finally got into the situation where I was, if you want to say, burdened with doctor bills from, my own health circumstances, to this day, the Nebraska Greats Foundation had, I'm so grateful and thankful because if it wasn't for the foundation, I don't even know how I would be able to cover that on top of manage everything I'm managing. And a fun fact to those guys out here in the world who support the foundation, who don't know, it was originally called the Husker Greats Foundation.
Right.
Until they met Josh Jones. And I needed some help, man. And, not saying that the foundation was only geared towards Huskers, but it was started by UNL, if you want to say alum, things
Huskers
like
around this thing in the beginning.
There you go. There's a bunch of Huskers around it. I'm a J-sker, so don't be offended by me. Just the fact, if you want to even talk from that standpoint, the fact that Huskers will outreach to a Blue Jay to try to help is bigger than that. It's about, the student athletes. It's about the people who gave so much to the fans and the people into the universities that needs help. So I am grateful to this day. And I love Nebraska Greats Foundation.
It's all good, Josh. It's true. The foundation began as the Husker Greats Foundation because it was founded by, a bunch of Nebraska football players. But suddenly it took about 15 seconds after we met Josh Jones. We said, wait a minute, whoa, this ain't right. There's no way this can be the Husker Greats Foundation, because what that's going to say to potential recipients who might have gone to Nebraska, like a recipient from Creighton or Bellevue University or Kearney or Wayne,
right.
It's going to say, well, I heard about the Husker Greats Foundation, but that's not me because I went to Bellevue. So we immediately changed it to Nebraska Greats Foundation.
I'm a pioneer, man. I'm a pioneer.
You are, buddy. You blaze trails. You're out of brush. You're out there building roads for us.
Yeah.
And the truth is, now we actually serve, of all of the 16 schools in Nebraska, we have served recipients from 9 of the 16 schools.
Man.
And we had our first one from Wayne State earlier this year. We've already served 2 in the year 2021. We served 28 since 2014, so we're off to a big start this year.
Oh, I mean, I think that's a great deal. And for me, the reason why, I feel I have a little different perspective than any other recipient, because I feel like I was with you guys from the start. You guys had a vision and a dream to pretty much help anybody in need. And like I mentioned, in a jokingly way, you guys did kind of change the narrative to outsource to me and make it make sense. And I'm grateful for that. But when I see other recipients from Wayne State, Bellevue University, and other places of some sort, I am thankful that I actually was nothing but a vessel, to the network of others in need.
And Josh Jones was our first non-Husker recipient and the first Creighton Blue Jay. And we hope that many, many more Creighton Blue Jays are part of our roster, our family of recipients at the Nebraska Greats Foundation. Let me talk a little bit about basketball today, Josh. You mentioned you've been out of it almost years, since 2012. That was when your basketball career ended, but then your life started in many, many ways. But today's college sports with the transfer portal and the name, image, and likeness opportunities that never, ever existed before, it's got to be very hard now to coach a college basketball team because, you got to recruit guys, but you need a team. Only 5 guys get on the floor. In football,
Right.
only 11 people get on the field at the same time. It's an entirely different world out there. And what's your take on it?
My take on it is sports has evolved so much. I'll speak first to the athlete. You got Steph Curry shooting from half court routinely. You got guys in the NFL such as Lamar Jackson, such as Pat Mahomes, who are doing things that, like, if you really wanted to, they can play cornerback and quarterback, receiver. They can play so many dynamic positions, but they're throwing the football. The athlete has evolved so much within the world we're in today. I believe that sports is actually entertaining to a new level. When it comes to the coaching and things like that or whatever, I say that the coaches have evolved because they're trying to adapt to today's athlete. The thing about that I think that is most important is not about actually sports in general. It's about the society that we live in today. It's evident and obvious that we're in a world today when there is a lot of division. There's a lot of political views. There's so many different type of turmoil type situations. I think it makes it even more hard for coaches to recruit and players to actually choose a school according to what's going on today.
Visiting with Josh Jones here on the Nebraska Greats podcast. If you'd like to be a part of our organization, we'd love to have you. If you have any affinity whatsoever for former college athletes from any of the 16 schools in Nebraska, please help us out. Go online at negreats.org. That's negreats.org. You can also find us on Facebook. Josh, Creighton University is one of the top 20 programs in college basketball today. After it joined the Big East Conference in 2013, that was a game changer for CU, and the Jays have become a perennial contender for the Big East Conference Championship, which makes you a perennial contender for the Final Four because it's one of the top conferences in all of college basketball. Right. Growing up and watching Creighton, it was a great opportunity for you to go, but did you ever see the Jays as a perennial contender for literally a top 10 finish and a Final Four appearance as they are now?
That's a great question. Honestly, I never seen that because I had hoop dreams of myself of just being a young kid, and I was in awe of Kobe Bryant. Just being 17 years old in the NBA at that time, and just doing what he was doing. So I was skipping. I wasn't even thinking about college basketball to say, rest in peace to Kobe Bryant, and all those others who died in a tragic accident. But I'll say this to you. I can't speed it up to when I actually got a chance to play for Creighton myself. And I never fathomed Creighton being where it is today until I was actually in a position to, along with the other teammates that I had at that particular time, to actually compete. I'm not trying to toot our horn, but our teams were so good at that particular time in the Valley towards our ending years. We had Doug McDermott, who was the best player in the country. We had Gregory Echenike, who transferred in from Rutgers University. Grant Gibbs went to Gonzaga. Ethan Rocky could have went to Marquette. I can keep going down the lines of other quality guys. My senior year, we led every second of the Missouri Valley Conference tournament, all but 48 seconds. And that's when it was tip ball, and Wichita State scored the first 2 points on us. We dominated. And I say that to say that I knew where we were evolving, but I didn't know that we would be as elite so quick. I seen us going to the level we're at, but it's just surreal still to be a part of that and to see what and recognize where we're at today.
Talk about Coach McDermott. I know you've gotten very close to that family. His family has gotten very close to yours.
Yeah.
Talk about him as a coach and what made him and what made the staff when you played for them different, and how did they make you a better person, a better player? How did they make you what you are today?
I think that overall, Coach McDermott, and then his staff followed suit because obviously he put people on his team that kind of mirror his vision. The thing that made Coach McDermott so great to me as a coach when I played, and even still, in my opinion, a great coach now, is the simple fact that he's a player's coach. That he just simply allowed me to be me. I'm one of those players, or I was one of those players, if you want to say, who was more so swashbuckling. Like, I don't see a shot that I don't like. I got a lot of more confidence in myself than I actually do in the team. But the team has more confidence in me than I actually understand. So just getting under, coming from Central High School, it's not about any accolades I had, but just like the type of player I was. He allowed me to be myself and learn how to mold my strengths and fit them into our offense. As far as how close we got, the reason why we got so close, it did start with that players coach relationship, allowing me to be myself. But over time, it allowed me to allow him to be himself within the same sense. And we developed a chemistry, and he's really had my back on and off the court, and it's a tough situation for me with Coach McDermott. Obviously, what's going on in the world, what's going on with his past comments with, prior weeks. But it's tough for me because, I know him by character because of, what he's personally done for me, but also what I've seen him do to my other teammates and people he's encountered. But it's just unfortunate that it's a tricky dynamic when talking to a guy like myself about it.
What was the story was the national sports story of the day. It lasted several days.
Right.
What was your reaction? What was your first reaction when you saw that? Or did he call you ahead of time before it got out publicly and you knew about the plantation remarks before they got to the public sphere? But Josh, knowing what you know about him personally and the relationship that you've had with his family and you have with his family, what was your first reaction?
My first reaction was confusion, for the simple fact that I know him. But in that moment, I was like questioning myself, like I do know him. And so for me, the biggest thing is once I digressed and had the opportunity for him to actually call me and us to have dialogue where we called each other back and forth. I'll be quite frank here, because I feel like I'm in a position where I think that I can move a lot of people together. And when I say a lot of people, I mean Black and white, I mean inner city and suburban community and things of that sort. It's hard to speak so great on somebody I know so personally, publicly, because his words aren't the issue. The issue is actually the world that we live in and how we are all in our own comfort zones and on so much defense from the inner city community, but on the opposite side, if you want to say the suburban community, there is just no effort for education and understanding, and that's not to everyone, but it's to the masses, the overall perspective. On one side, me speaking on how I know Coach McDermott personally can allow the Black community to be frustrated because the Black community sees things as, well, you speaking on behalf of him will make, the assumption is you will make the white community feel like it's okay. If I speak on behalf of him to the white, and the white community perceives it, the white community will go like, oh man, what a great guy. And then there is a potential chance that the white community still stay comfortable and life stays the same. And the problem is everybody has to get uncomfortable and have the hard conversation, but do more and have actually plans of action and have presence to pretty much elevate competency. That's the issue. And me, the reason why I took a stand is because I feel like within who I am as myself, I was the same as a player. adversity is a fuel to the fire of success. And I am not afraid to take a stance for someone that I know personally. And he and I together, I believe that we can bridge the gap with action, not just words.
This is a very educational time for, I think, the country. And it's a little uncomfortable. And I think to your point about adversity, Josh, that's really it. We're visiting with Josh Jones, former Creighton standout, on the Nebraska Greats podcast. But you said something to me earlier in the week that struck me as probably the central theme, and that is this. You may not think it's insensitive to say that. Right. Maybe you may not even be a racist, or you may not have bigoted feelings.
Exactly.
You just say it because you've heard it before, or you heard it growing up and nobody ever made a big deal out of it then.
Right.
But the education part, to me, Josh, comes in understanding that is insensitive to somebody.
To somebody. Okay. That's what matters.
Somebody. And that doesn't even make them overly sensitive. That just means, you know what, that is something that is offensive to me.
Right. Exactly.
And I just want you to appreciate that. I don't think you're a racist. I don't think you're somebody who doesn't like people of color or wishes they were somewhere else. But by you saying that, you may dismiss it as, oh, it's no big deal. Right. But it is to somebody.
And that's what matters. And the thing is, I'll say this, racism, systemic racism, and anything that even talks about inequality and equality, no matter what race, but specifically in our case, white versus black, or black versus white, or however you want to explain that, it's very complex. Because in my true opinion, and this is what I told Coach McDermott, I guess I'm giving you something I didn't give everybody else. It's not up to Coach McDermott to necessarily just come talk to black people. It's up to Coach McDermott to talk to white people. He needs to talk to white people about what he understands. And I can talk with him, but I say talking within action. I'll say it in a better sense of terms. It's up to Coach McDermott and all white people to hold other white people accountable for competency and understanding. It's up to black people to talk to black people about their understanding of white people to each other, so we can work out our own heart issues first. How can we come together when we can't even get right with ourselves?
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's about.
Or when we can't even agree on the problem.
There you go.
But Josh, you came from an intact family, which is rare for anybody today. It doesn't matter who you are.
To be honest,
most people, a lot of people are growing up with one parent, which is not good. You were fortunate to grow up with two parents,
right?
And you have every intention, and by looks of things, you're going to pull it off that your kids are going to have two parents when they grow up. But is there any, and this, do you appreciate that many in the white community will see some of the popular culture, music lyrics, the way that folks talk to each other as a bit confusing? Because, in the black community, you will see black artists use terms that the white people would never, ever use when speaking to a black person.
Should use, understood.
Or should use. And they see things that are done. They say, well, okay, does it really matter that much?
And that is why I said racism is so complex, because it's kind of like everybody has like a absolute perspective, or a teeter-tottering trying to understanding perspective. When it comes to, for instance, when it comes to like lyrics of African-American culture, from as a Black American male, or just a Black person in general, it is the culture of Black people. And I do agree that like it does make sense if you just like condemn all words that mean racial things. But like I believe that like we're at a time where things have happened so much that like it's hard to cancel like the culture of that type of thing in general. But I believe that you have to cultivate the situation. Like, that's why I said it's so complex, because like at the end of the day, if we try to harp on what one culture could do to itself to be better, like I feel like it's hard to like actually blend cultures together in general, because at the end of the day, culture is culture. Black culture is black culture, white culture is white culture, and so many things. But even then, that can be complex. So that is a real question. And I think the answer I'm going to give you, without trying to like talk around, I'm not trying to talk around it, but I'm trying to find the words. I think it's simply that I think this is it. That's fair. And that is honestly true. Sometimes you can be your own problem, before you even try to fix a problem. And that's why I said there's a lot of implicit and explicit biases going on in the world. It's so complex. It is so complex.
Because I know that there are many, many folks in the African-American community who don't like it when other African-Americans and other blacks so cavalierly throw certain terms around.
Right.
Or
and
they
then
make
the devil's advocate is, hey, well, you say it. If you think it's bad, why do you even say it to yourself? That's right. That's a true statement. And that's why I said it's so complex. Me personally, or whatever, like I try to live morally and not live in that light and say those type of things or whatever, because I got a son and I don't want my son to have the wrong perception of things either. So my moral character is a little different than all those with other opinions. So it's like you're trying to deal with people who are more conservative, more liberal, some but in between. You're trying to talk to all these people about like their different perspectives and figure out how we can blend it together. I think at the baseline understanding, what matters the most right now that can actually push the envelope forward a little bit, because it's so complex, is just equality with opportunity and equality with integration. That's what I think. I think I'm more focused on opportunity and integration, because what you're saying is like third tier. Let's fix it, because I don't think you're wrong, man. I don't think you're wrong at all. But the devil's advocate to that is this. I've heard people say this, and to some degree, I think I personally can understand and feel this myself. That wasn't a word that black people made up. Black people just made it as a. You see what I'm saying?
Right. Like that word came from the white community. That word came from the white community.
Yeah. So imagine an oppressed person trying to find empowerment out of adversity, and they make a term of endearment to each other out of something that was derogatory. So that's why I said it's so complex, like from both sides, like both sides.
Because I think the white community, Josh Jones, wants. I don't think most white people in this country are prejudiced or racist. I think there are some. I don't think a lot of them. I think there are some, and the ones that are get a lot of attention, and they unfortunately create a lot of ill will and violate a lot of sensitivities.
Right.
But I think most are interested in saying, "Gosh, help me out, okay? I'm willing to learn and listen and say, hey, look, that's something I shouldn't say." Okay, it's like, and I'll give you another example. A lot of people cavalierly, use the term, hey, we got to keep these people on the reservation, or this, or there was a term in baseball, that ball's off the reservation. Okay, well, to Native Americans, that is just as bad as plantation.
There you go.
The reservation was an American institution, a set aside piece of property where they forced all Native Americans to reside.
Yes,
things like that.
There's three words that mean the same thing, and I'm glad I'm able to have this, like, if you want to say uncomfortable conversation, because it's important.
It's okay.
There's three words: plantation, reservation, and concentration.
Yes.
All mean the same sensitivity. And that is why, it's important that we all understand what it means to other people. That is why it's important that, you don't set. The problem with people is this: it's a hard issue. At the end of the day, you have to, in order to have compassion, you have to lament. And that's the only way you can have compassion. I have to set aside, for instance, lamenting means to relate or understand.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a spiritual guy. So if I can use from a spiritual perspective, when Lazarus died, even though Jesus Christ was going to be able to raise Lazarus from the dead, you know, he lamented and he cried. The Savior of the world, you know, who knew he can bring somebody back to life, wanted to show that he understood how much that it actually hurts for death. And he cried with the family, and then he rose him from the dead.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to deny our own feelings of what we think about something and just be understanding to what it means to someone else.
Well said, Josh Jones. Hey, it's been great talking to you and catching up, my man. I can't wait for the next time we get together. And we're so proud of Josh Jones and what he's done, not only since his really just very scary health problem, but what he's done with it since. And he also said something that sticks with us all the time, and that is this. Because the Nebraska Greats Foundation came through for me, I now have the ability to go out into my community and serve other people.
100%.
And there is no greater testament to what the Nebraska Greats Foundation means than that. Josh, have a wonderful day. I'm sure this time of year you love because it's basketball season, and we'll talk to you again soon, all right?
Hey, you guys be great. Thank you.
That's Josh Jones, former Creighton star basketball player, and this is Jim Rose. Thanks to all of you for joining us. And again, please help us out online if you want to be a part of this foundation in any way at negreats.com.
This has been Nebraska Greats, a weekly podcast serving the Nebraska Greats Foundation. You can find each episode on Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, Google Play, and anywhere you get your podcasts. Please give generously to serve Nebraska's former sports heroes in need at negreats.org. And be sure to follow the NE Greats on Facebook and Twitter.